Hi, I'm Sukli Liu. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Southern California. I direct the Neuroplasticity and Neurorehabilitation Lab. And the goal of my research is to help people get better after stroke. reInvent is a low-cost, portable brain-computer interface that we developed for people who have severe stroke. So the way reInvent works is it takes brain signals and muscle signals that indicate an attempt to move, and it provides feedback in virtual reality of the person actually moving. We really tried to go for a low-cost system. And for most brain-computer interfaces, the biggest cost is in the brain reading equipment. A whole system usually costs anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. And this makes it really prohibitive for people to be able to access it. So they have to come to a center to use it. What we did is we used an OpenBCI system, which came out of a Kickstarter actually, and it's only $1,000 for a 16-channel EEG system. The downside is that you have to build it yourself. So we built it ourselves. A lot of the components are 3D printed. The cap itself is actually a swim cap from Amazon for under $10. And we poked holes in it in our lab that corresponded to the places people usually put electrodes. We stripped wires, we 3D printed the electrode components, and we assembled it all there. So the cap itself costs less than, I would say, $1,050. So I had worked in brain-computer interface research for a few years, and for the most part we had people come to our centers and we would use really expensive technology to read their brain signals and give them feedback that wasn't really very interesting. But my husband started working in virtual reality, and it seemed like a really exciting and engaging new technology. And at the same time, there were a lot of companies coming out with low-cost ways to do brain imaging. And it seemed like it was time that we could make a low-cost brain-computer interface that might actually be engaging and actually invoke biological systems. We first assess people by doing behavioral assessments to look at their ability to move, and we also assess the connection between the brain and the muscles. Sample. We assess the connection between the brain and the muscles using transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is a way that we can excite neurons in the motor cortex and actually evoke a movement in the person's hand. So this is a way we can measure the connection between the brain and the hand in a quantitative way. So we can use something called neuronavigation. What we have is called a BrainSight neuronavigation unit, and it uses a camera and the person's MRI or picture of their brain, and we can actually match the person's head in physical space to the MRI on the screen. Basically what this lets us do is know where we're stimulating in that person's brain. So it provides us like a Google map of where we're going, because we can't see where we're going because of the skull. Well, portability is important because for a lot of people who have had a stroke, it's hard for them to get around in the community, and so making it portable means that it's accessible to them. After the initial assessment, we would wheel reInvent to a room with the patient. We first go over the procedures with them so they know what's going to happen. We have them sign a consent form or waiver since we are doing research here. Just take out the laptop, which runs all of our software and runs the virtual reality software. We also would just put on an EEG cap, and then we put on the electrodes onto their muscles, and we put an IMU on their wrist, so this tracks their movements. And then finally we put the virtual reality headset on them. There you go, and I'm just going to pull this over. Okay. We take signals from your brain, and we take signals from your muscles, and when those signals indicate that you're trying to move, then in virtual reality your arm moves, even if your arm doesn't really move in the real world. I want you to try to move your hand towards the target position, okay? But we're going to have you do it just using your brain activity. So the way it works is that after a stroke, you generate a motor command to move your arm, and that command gets blocked. So people can think about moving, and we can take those signals that indicate they're thinking about moving and give them feedback in virtual reality that they're actually moving. And the feedback in virtual reality serves to reinforce those good brain signals that they had. So essentially you can think of it as brain training. So normally we train the brain by actually moving the hand, and that's a whole system, and that's what therapy does most of the time. But when they can't move, this is considered like a backdoor. We can just read the brain signals that are good and reinforce them by showing them a hand moving in virtual reality. That orange target position.
Okay.
Okay. So the whole reason I got into research was to help people that we don't have tools to help right now as clinicians. So as a therapist, I felt like I didn't know who was going to recover, and for the people that weren't recovering, I didn't have anything else that I could give them. And that was really frustrating and a little bit heartbreaking. So for me, this research is hopefully my way of helping patients, hopefully a lot of patients. So this is definitely not new. Brain-computer interfaces have been around for decades, and there have been really amazing researchers who pioneered this work. They've pioneered the work in monkeys, in animal models, where they teach monkeys to control something on a computer screen for juice. They've also done this in patients who have locked-in syndrome or difficulties moving or communicating in other ways. The thing that's new here is that we're trying to make it portable and affordable and a lot more engaging by using the virtual reality. I love it because I think it's exciting. It's a blend of technology, it has clinical relevance, it could really help people, we think, in a way that they would enjoy too.